friends, this is Laura with Potpourri of Life. I hope that you're doing great. Today I want to share with you how I make my chicken noodle soup. I change it up from time to time and I work around with what I have. But today it's going to be a choice of noodles, and this is something that is inexpensive to make. And I'm using things that I have left over, such as the chicken from a rotisserie chicken we've made. So I had some left over. David had chicken in a sandwich and I had chicken on a salad the other day. And so this is what's left, and I want to put it into my chicken noodle soup. And I was telling him this morning before he left for work, I said, you know what? I want to make a homemade chicken noodle soup. It's been a while. I'm just kind of like, I'm in need of a chicken noodle soup. Now, yes, it might be less costly to go get a can off the shelves at the market. I don't know. I haven't bought them in a long time. The last time I looked at soups was this past winter when I was collecting a bunch of food for the food pantries that I was donating to, and I couldn't find any that were not GMO. Or the bioengineered type stuff. So I'm trying to be very careful about all that kind of stuff. So this is what I'm working with. This is something I actually had my daughters use at school when they wanted something when they weren't feeling well, because when they're miles away or states away, it's hard to have mom make some soup and bring it up. And you know what? It was time for them to grow up anyway. So this is what I have on hand. So I make chicken broth. I make turkey broth all the time when I have it, and have that big carcass or whatever. I will make broths. I know my last turkey I made like a ton, like a case jar of broth. I could be making turkey soup too. And that's the other thing. If all you have on hand is turkey broth, use turkey broth. It's not going to make that much of a difference. It's coming from a poultry animal. So I'm going to use this quart jar of this. Now, other options, if you're not gluten intolerant, we have ramen noodle soups. Yes, this is on my shelf. Why is it on my shelf? Because with all the things that could go wrong in our world, is it going to go wrong? I don't know. They've been talking about it for a long time. But it's very important for all of us to be prepared for things. Even biblically, it's all about preparing in terms of just be prepared. Plus, if there's a winter storm, which I'm hoping we don't have any, it could happen. We've had storms in March and April. But if there's a storm, or if there's something coming through and you can't make it to the market, or the market is shut down, or if it's anything like our town, if there's a storm coming in, everybody goes. I don't like those crowds. I don't even like going to the market on a real good day. So I just stay out. So I try to purchase in bulk. So I bought these. I bought 6 of the beef flavor and 6 of the chicken flavor. Not for me, but for my husband. These are so heavily inundated with salt, but the salt is in that seasoning packet. You don't have to use that seasoning packet. Now, the good thing about salt is if you're dehydrated, or you're in a situation where you've been hiking all day and you're camping or something, the salt packet might be helpful for you. So even though I don't like those packets, that does not mean there might not be a benefit to using it. But for what I'm doing for a basic meal, a chicken noodle soup, that's what we're doing. I'm not doing this today though. Other options for those of you who are gluten intolerant is you can always use like a brown rice vermicelli. You can use that. This is about 4 servings in this, and you can just throw it in there and so forth. What I have here is some gluten-free spaghetti. I love this brand. I've started using it and I just kind of like it. It's an organic brown rice pasta. This is the first gluten-free product that I actually like. There are some others out there that are okay, but I like their brand. So you can use spaghetti noodles when you're making chicken noodle soup. So I'll tell you in a minute which one I'm going to choose. So I have my homemade chicken broth. If you don't have homemade chicken broth and you don't have time to put the carcass in your leftover veggies and all that and let it sit and boil for a while and cook all day, or have the jars or the capacity to can, you can always get some organic broth. And yes, even though I make my own broths, I keep some of these on hand just in case, or if my husband and I have to go somewhere and we'll be gone and we want to make a meal, these are handy because I don't have to worry about glass breakage. So this one is an organic chicken broth. broth, which is low sodium, which I am always looking for, is something that's not highly salted. I have the rest of what I have from the rotisserie chicken, and that's what I'm going to put in it because I don't want it to go to waste. But if you don't have rotisserie chicken on hand, and this is what I sent to with my kids, you can always have a can of chicken. See, those of you who are preppers or putting extra on your shelves, these are some things that you can use with your prepped items. A can of chicken, a container of broth, and your choice of noodles. Now, I'm not going to use the store-bought broth or the store-bought chicken, so that's off to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my broth in there. If I can get the can open. And I'm going to put that into the pan. And I'm going to turn the camera so you can see more of how this is being put together. So I have 1 jar of broth in there. I am going to fill it with filtered water. So I have 1 can of broth and 1 jar of broth and 1 jar of water. Get the water started. Now my choice of noodles is going to be the spaghetti noodles. I was going to use this. Maybe I'll change my mind. No, I'm going to use the spaghetti noodles because my husband was willing to try a gluten-free version. So I'm going to do this. Now, with it just being a couple servings, this is, let's see how many servings are in there. They say 6 servings, so I'm just going to get a couple handfuls that I will put in there once the water is boiling. While that is happening, I am going to get my meat cut up. And get that ready. Now this is one way you don't have to let the chicken go bad or any leftover meat. Like say you don't have chicken but you have leftover roast or something. You can make a soup with that with a beef broth. I just happen to be somebody who does not like to see my food wasted. So basically all I'm going to do is cut my chicken down into little bite-sized pieces. Okay, that is not big enough. Now sometimes I share my leftover chicken with the chickens, but today I didn't want to. I really wanted to make a soup. And this is a lot of chicken that I had left over. So I think it's really important for us to utilize what we have on hand. And this is what I have on hand. Get that all cut up. Now I realize that some people might find that this is a little too tedious. It's not worth it because a can of soup is just that much quicker, much easier. You're right, it's a lot easier. But I just feel better when I am making stuff that is a little bit better. So here I've got my cut up chicken. I've got my noodles. They are waiting to be added to the soup. So I'm going to change my camera again. So once the water is done, I am going to add the noodles in. And I'm going to break them up. So they might not need 10 minutes, which is typical for your noodles and stuff. But if you use the ramen noodles, they cook up in like 3 minutes, if I recall correctly. And these, I have not seen how fast these. I am not sure how fast these. 15 minutes. So I'm just going to do the gluten-free pasta here. What's really refreshing is because I made my own broth, it saves us money. Or some people might say, well, you had to spend time, you had to cook it, you had to can it. And that does take resources to do. But at least I know what is in my product. There's no preservatives in it. I just can. I might put a little bit of salt in it, but that's about it. And the only reason I do that is because of the meat. And the other thing is when I can broth, especially if it has meat in it, I actually pressure can it. Now, can you water bath it? I don't know. I honestly don't. I like to play it safe because it is meat. So once this is all boiling, I will be back with you. So the water is now boiling. It only took like a couple of minutes. And then I'm not going to use the whole package in there because I don't need to. I'm going to just take about a handful, okay? I'm going to break it in half. Come on, break. And then I'm going to break it in half again. Just so that they can have little noodles in this, similar. So this is about, they're not very big in here at all. So we'll get the rest of these going. David and I are not big pasta eaters. We like pasta, but we don't eat it a lot. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that I'm gluten intolerant, and for a long time I couldn't find pasta that I liked. So I'm going to set the timer here for 8 minutes because I think because they're smaller they might cook faster. Don't know. And I find that the gluten pasta seems to do better, like it cooks faster. And while that's cooking, I'm also going to put the chicken in there, and that'll actually make it a little bit more tender. So it's all boiling up. The other thing that I'm going to put in here is I have some garlic powder and I have some minced onion that I'm going to put in here just to give it a little bit more flavor. And even though I probably put it in my broth, I'm going to put it a little bit more in because it's benefits. It's going to be a little garlicky for my husband. Hope he likes it. So we'll let this cook a little bit. Some other things that you can put in here is some parsley, oregano. Let's see, what do I have up here? I have some parsley. Let's see, do I have any other? What I'm going to add into my soup. Now, I don't have a cold right now. My husband is dealing with some respiratory allergy stuff, but I'm going to put in an immune tea blend. And the reason I'm doing that is I make it with oregano, thyme, rosemary, lemon balm, olive leaf, and hibiscus. So there's not much here and I have to make a new batch. So instead of getting everything from everywhere, I'm going to put this into the soup mix. And I'm just going to put like just a little bit into there, just to give it a nice seasoning blend. And the reason I wanted to show you that, now I still have plenty of tea if I want to have that. This is a blend that I used, that I put together when I first started fighting Lyme disease. And the reason I use it is because it's an immune boosting type thing, and when you have chicken noodle soup, that's kind of something that you would want. So any of these herbs you can put into your chicken noodle soup. And my apology, I'm looking at the video part, I'm not looking at the camera. I'll try to make that better. So you can put oregano in here, thyme, rosemary, lemon balm, olive leaf, hibiscus, whatever you want to put in there. I think I put parsley too. So you can put those things in there to make it so that it is to your liking. Can you put salt in here? Yeah, I didn't, because I know I put a little bit of salt into my broth mix. Actually, it's not very salty at all. So I think what I'm going to do is just put a smidgen of salt in here. Like I said, I'm not a salt person. 2 little things from the shaker. Well, something happened with my camera, so I'm not going to try moving it because of that. But it's cooking up really good. There's about 3 minutes left. And I will show you. I'm going to move the camera manually because my camera kind of did something funky. And that actually looks pretty good. The noodles are not yet soft, so I'm just going to they're soft a little bit. So I know I'm shaking there, so we'll put that back. So I'm just going to cook this. It says 2 minutes. I might cook it a little bit longer, only because I want this to be soft to enjoy. What can I do while I'm waiting? So obviously this is not something difficult to make. Use what you have on hand. If all you have are spaghetti noodles, you can make a chicken noodle soup during hard times or when you're having a cold. And this is something you can make for any of your children. If you do not want to have noodles in there, you can have chicken soup without the noodles. And with us all having to take it easy in terms of how much we spend at the grocery store, using our leftover chicken, using some broth that we made left from a rotisserie chicken, or even a chicken that you might have baked, or from a turkey, using those are things that you can do. And don't throw away your carcass. Use it, because it'll have meat that comes out and it goes into the jar as well. I'm not sure if this is ready. Looks like it might be. I'm going to let it go for the full 10 minutes. I put it on for 8 minutes, if you recall, and this way I'm going to get the full 10 minutes for these noodles. I thought they'd be okay not doing it, but I don't like hard noodles. Let's see. They don't tell you. I'm just going from experience. Five minutes. No, that was for zucchini. I'm just doing the 10 minutes. It depends on the recipe that you use from there. But I want my noodles a little bit more, a little bit softer. Yeah, this is going to be great. So as I started to say, and sorry for the distraction, is you can make this soup. You can make a beef soup. You can add vegetables in here. I didn't add vegetables. I could throw peas in here, but for regular basic chicken noodle soup, we don't need to do that for tonight. Now, something we could do on the side, sure, we could have roasted asparagus, or we can have peas, we can have a can of corn, or whatever it is that you have on hand to add for the additional nutrients. So just some broth, whether you can it yourself or whether you purchase it. Try to have low salt. Get some leftover chicken. So don't throw it away. Make sure you make this right away. Now, if you can't make it like a couple days after you have the rotisserie chicken, take those leftover pieces, put it in the freezer, and then it'll be ready to go when you have time to make a chicken noodle soup. So this looks like it is done. I'm going to turn it off and let it get cool. It is perfect. Now, I will not eat a big bowl like this, but I like these bowls because they have a little thumb thing. So this is what it looks like if I can get this over. This is what the chicken noodle soup looks like. And I'm really happy with it. I'll probably just take a couple scoops. There's plenty of chicken for both of us. Now I eat a little bit earlier than my husband because of his work schedule. And so I'll have about this much today. Oops, can't see it. It's not a lot, but this bowl is really huge. I just like the comfort in how that one works. So, you know, if you're kind of like struggling right now, a lot of us are struggling in how do we afford these groceries. You go to the store and you just fill that little basket. You can spend $50 to $100 just putting basic items into that. So this is one way that I can take leftover food. As it is, when you buy a chicken, it is really expensive, most especially if you're trying to do organic. One way you can cut back on the cost of your chicken, the stores now, it seems like it's the thing all over the place, is you can get a rotisserie chicken at the markets that are already cooked for you. And they go, here in New Hampshire, they go from $4 to $8. And considering that you don't have to cook it, and it's already done for you, I could spend the same amount on chicken, then have to cook it, and then do all that you might not have time for. So if that works for you, then by all means do it. You know, and then take that carcass and make a small batch of broth. So what you can do, you bring that chicken home. You have a little bit for dinner with some mashed potatoes and beans or whatever it is that, you know, satisfies your palate. And then you have a little bit of chicken left over. Now, we had, I think it was a good sized chicken that I cooked up. And we got, you know, a couple of meals out of it already, but I still had just enough for the soup to make the chicken noodle soup. So use it for what you want. If you want a roasted chicken with potatoes and all that kind of stuff, use it for that. Don't throw everything away. Put all the meat aside. I put the jar away. I put mine in a canning jar. It's better than plastic, and I can wash it up and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. That's why I put my meat in a canning jar. And not only that, but if I wanted to freeze it, as long as you have airspace in there, a smaller jar you could stick right in the freezer if you wanted. Now, I was going to be making it so I didn't have to freeze it. So you take the meat off your carcass. Then you take that carcass, add in some vegetables that might be in your refrigerator that are still fine, throw it in there and boil it up, baby. Get it cooking so you can be making a broth. Add in your salt, your pepper, and herbs, whatever it is that you want in this broth. Okay. After that is done, see, you don't have to can up your broth. I'm just sharing with you how you can do it. You don't have to have broth on hand from the store. You can take one rotisserie chicken that you might find at the grocery store, or you buy a chicken and you're going to bake it yourself. Your meat is off to the side, you're making your own broth. That's all you do, folks. Just take it, and then once the bones start to get soft, you really want that cartilage to soften up, because that collagen that's coming out of the bones is so good for you and your skin. And then when you are done, vegetables and all, even if you put celery in, if you put kale, whatever it is, you're going to take them out. Sorry, I can't think of the word I want to use. I sometimes use, if I want to keep some of the vegetables in there, I will. Sorry, I gotta move the camera. This is driving me nuts. Sorry about that. Let's see if that does it. My head was being cut off. So I can take this and take all the bones out, or I can put it through my strainer. That's the word I was looking for. You can put it through there and then put it through and put it into another pot. Then take all that chicken that's already cooked, throw it into it, and then boil up some noodles. So You can do it as a small batch. Maybe that's the only purpose that you're going out to get a chicken, is to make chicken noodle soup. There are so many things that you can do with the food that you're buying instead of throwing them into your trash. A lot of times we throw things into the trash, and maybe it's a holiday and people don't come, or it's a hot summer or something, and you can end up with little creepy critters in your trash because the garbage is there. Or you might get raccoons into your trash can, unless you put it inside your garage and stuff, the trash bin. But if you boil this down, what's left, the bones and all the extra vegetables, they can actually go into your compost. They will continue to break down, but do whatever you can to get that carcass boiled right down. Now, I don't add the skin into my my broth at all. Sometimes there might be a little bit there, but I don't like it because it's just too fatty for me. Not that the chicken skin is bad for you, it's just that's my preference, but you might like it, so you choose how you want to do it. There's still enough in here of the fat because you have it in other parts of the chicken and in the carcass. So there are ways that you can stretch just a small 3-5 pound chicken and making a bunch of meals. So you can have your basic meal, the first one. You can have sandwiches or chicken pieces on top of a salad. So my husband does the sandwich, I do the salad. And you can make a soup with it. It is just so cool that we can take this and then you don't have to buy the broth. That is one way to keep your budgets trimmed. I'm hoping this was helpful. I hope it gave you some ideas so that you might be able to make your own chicken noodle soup. And like I said, if you have ramen noodles and you like them, and by the way, they're very, very cheap. This box of noodles was about, I don't know if I remember correctly, it's a couple dollars, $3 or $4. But it's just my husband and I, and we don't eat a big plate of spaghetti. So it might say it's 6 servings. It'll be far more than that for us. The ramen noodles, this says 2 servings. But you can still stretch this. If you're on a tight budget and you're trying to stretch your dollar so that it goes further, the broth itself is very flavorful and you might find that you enjoy it. So I'm hoping this is cool enough so I can try it. I want to get some noodles in there just to make sure that they are the way I want them. This is pretty amazing. So I want to keep eating it. For me, it's perfect. For my husband, he will add salt in it. One of the things I don't do is I don't put a lot of salt in my food. I put salt on the table so he can add to it if he feels it's necessary. So one rotisserie chicken, whether you bake it, whether you put it in the rotisserie, or whether you purchase it from the grocery store. And, you know, so that's like $6 if you buy it at the grocery store already cooked and then you don't have to turn your stove on. And those of you who are camping, that might work out pretty good. Take the chicken off, put the leftover chicken that you're not using, into a canning jar. Put it in the refrigerator until you're ready, or if you're going to make this right away, then don't even worry about it. But just take that. I think I'm being repetitive, and for that I'm very, very sorry. But I'm just excited about this type of meal that can stretch your dollars. And a lot of people don't realize how far their dollars can go if they're not wasteful. And I realize that some people might not want to do this. It's too much work. Actually, it's not. And you can come home tired. But this soup here should feed us, okay, there's 2 of us. So it should feed us both twice. So 4 servings of what I made from leftover from a pint of broth that I made. I added a pint of water to it. I added a handful of noodles, not a lot. There's quite a bit left in here. There's 2/3 left in here, so maybe it is 6 servings. Or you could do noodles however you want. Now say you did the ramen noodles. So you have the rotisserie at the store. We're going to go with $6. I think that's the average. Add one of these for 30 cents. Maybe you have seasonings on hand, so I'm not going to add that in. And then broth, which you're going to take from the carcass, So for $6.50 or less, you've got a meal that can feed at least 4 people just on the leftovers. So, and then you also have the other meals. So a rotisserie chicken, if I made it or if I bought it, will make 3 to 4 meals for the week. That's pretty good. You get your main meal, your lunch the next day, or 2 lunches. So that, I think we got 2 extra days out of that. And then this, so 5 meals for 2 people out of 1 small rotisserie chicken. It can happen. And if you do the rotisserie at the store, oops, I forgot the noodles. So we'll say that this was like $1 worth. So we're talking less than $7.50 for 5 meals. I want you to think about that. See if you can fit that into your process of feeding your family. This is just my way of cutting back, and it helps us to stay focused on nutrients as well as keeping our dollars where they need to be. We have, all bills are going up, and so we have to stretch them, and we have to see where we can stretch them. And generally speaking, a lot of people end up cutting back on their food. And I find that unfortunate, but it could be a good thing. Be very careful of the foods that you're buying. If you buy foods that will fulfill you, you will find that you'll be fuller longer, and it might help your waistline as well as make you healthier. And if things are going to get bad, the first thing you want to do is reduce your stress. So start thinking about ways that you can cut back in terms of your dollars. How can you make affordable meals that you can take to work, send your kids to school with, have them come home and have a nice warm soup? These are things to think about. So, a regular meal, sandwiches, salad, and soup, all out of 1 rotisserie chicken. Folks, you can do this, and I hope this was inspiring so that you can make this on your own. Have a great day, and may God bless you.